And welcome to this True Blue Extra. I'm Dave McCann, along with BYUtv football analyst Blaine on this week of Utah State, and a lot of people looking forward to Friday night.
I mean, it's going to be a big game. I can't remember when a Utah State BYU game has had as much anticipation as this one. And you think about it, Utah State comes in here believing that they can come into Provo and win a ball game, and a lot of people in the state would side with them and say, yeah, they've gone on the road to Wisconsin and played well. They already beat Utah. This is a game for state supremacy, and it's a big one, the biggest Utah State BYU game that I can remember in a while.
Been a long time since they came to Provo and won, although the last time they were here last year, they had that game won 5 different ways, and Riley Nelson comes out and steals it away, and BYU wins, and then Riley becomes the starting quarterback. So let's talk about the quarterback situation for a moment. Who's going to start Friday night for BYU? I
think it depends on practice tomorrow, Tuesday, and if Riley can go full go, then he's going to be the guy. Bronco has made that very clear to us, that Riley is a starter. He likes the way he plays, but if he's not healthy, now at least they have some experience, under the wings of the young freshman Taysom Hill, so they can count on him to play. But if Riley's healthy, he'll be the guy.
BYU is number 5 in the country in total defense, and then it gets a little better as you break down some of the categories, including red zone defense. Once the opponent gets inside the 20, BYU is number 1 in the country, and then they're number, 3 in stopping the run. But you look a few slots down, and there's Utah State, number 11 in total D.
Yeah, this is a top 15 defense, and this will be a defensive battle. And I keep thinking about which offensive team will make some big plays, and yards are going to be tough to come by. They're both very good run defenses. Both teams have good athletes. I think BYU has more team speed in the back end. On the front, the difference between this Utah State team and past Utah State teams is Gary Anderson's done a great job of recruiting big guys up front. And so now they can stand up to a big team like Wisconsin or BYU or Utah and hold their own up front and allow some of that speed in the back end to come and make plays. So this is going to be a very good defensive football game.
What does that mean for BYU's offensive line? And it was changed all around for the Utah game, including a new center and 2 tackles. Or guards. Yeah. So a new look, but they did play with a little more fire than we'd seen them.
Yeah, I think that Mark Weber was worried that he was going to play guys that maybe from an execution standpoint wouldn't be quite as good. But they're more angry. You see Anai, 56, the big guy, getting upfield here for Jamal Williams and just burying a guy on the outside. And we saw that play after play. They protected well. They created seams. Guys were getting downfield. The big guys were running downfield. And so sometimes you give up maybe a little bit in execution with young guys on that offensive line, but what you get back is an aggressive nature, just kind of a nasty disposition on that front line. And Mark Weber decided to make that change and see what would happen. I think the results were great against Hawaii. I think Famika Anai brings just a mean, nasty kind of feeling to that offensive line, and that spreads. And those guys were knocking some people around in that ball game. It was fun.
It'll be interesting to see. And then I'm curious to see Chucky Keaton for Utah State, their quarterback, and Kerwin Williams, their leading runner and receiver, and what they can do against BYU's defense.
Yeah, Chucky Keaton he's an established guy. He's played in a lot of big ball games, and he does not get rattled. He's a guy that he thinks throw first, and he's got a very accurate arm, but he's not afraid to tuck it and run and make plays with his feet. He seems to have a real good sense this year, better than last year with the experience he now has, of when he needs to tuck it and run and when to throw it. And he's coming off of a 402-yard passing effort against UNLV where he threw it all over the place.
Utah State coming in 4-1, best record since 1978, last time they won. At BYU, but they also in that record there's UNLV, Colorado State, and Southern Utah. They beat Utah in an emotional game that could have gone either way there at the end, and then they looked okay on the road. But I think really, do we really know what they're capable of as BYU? It seems like they're even in expectation, but one team will surface as, well, they're better than those guys.
Well, in Utah State, as you mentioned, Wisconsin's not as good as everybody thought they were going to be. Right. Utah's struggled. We saw what happened with them against Arizona State this past week. The one thing they did prove, you go on the road and play at Wisconsin and you hold up physically, because Wisconsin's not as good this year, but physically they're still big and strong. And so Utah State is definitely a physical football team. I think this will be their biggest test to date, to go on the road at BYU, because BYU's defense is better than any defense they've faced all season long, without question.
Friday night starts a 4-week stretch, the toughest stretch of the season for BYU. Utah State, then Oregon State, and then Notre Dame and Georgia Tech. Oregon State going to be on ABC. It's going to be an afternoon game. We finally get one of those since Weber State and Oregon State. We both get those in the afternoon this season. That's at 1:30 Mountain Time, 3:30 Eastern on ABC Regional. So I'm not sure what that means for you on the East Coast, but we'll figure all that out.
Yeah, split national kind of thing.
There's going to be a different look, though, for BYU. There's been a lot of buzz on the internet of when are they coming out with the all-black uniforms for a blackout event and their black helmets. Well, it's going to be for Oregon State on homecoming Saturday in 2 weeks.
We needed to be overcast like that, like in the picture, to
Stormy.
really the full effect, to be stormy with the black. But I was impressed with BYU's fans for this last game. They had this idea, and you and I were going, this is never going to happen. They're not going to pull this thing off.
Right.
With the blue and white stripes in the stadium, and they sent out all kinds of communication through athletic media, and to our surprise, it looked great. They did a good job. So I don't have any doubt that with this blackout, they'll have everybody come in black, and it'll be a fun environment and some cool new unis to wear.
The only concern I have is that sometimes when you do that kind of stuff and there's so much focus on what the guys are wearing, that the other team comes in and smacks them around. And this is a team
it's a very good football team.
Might be as high as 12th when they come in here.
Yeah, they're 14th right now, and BYU's going to play back-to-back teams ranked in the top 14, and they play Washington State this week, which is Washington State's a team that can move the ball. They looked pretty good the other night against Arizona, but I think it's a team that they'll beat. So they're going to come in here ranked at least 14 and maybe higher. And so sometimes uniforms don't make a difference. If BYU doesn't play well, it won't make a difference because Oregon State's a good football team this year.
The black unis might not help them.
Yeah. Hopefully it'll give them some extra energy.
Yeah, it'll give the fans a jolt, that's for sure. He's BYUtv football analyst Blaine Fowler. I'm Dave McCann. We'll see you Friday night for BYU and Utah State from LaBelle Edwards Stadium.